Welcome to the Pulsewave podcast, brought to you by Metronome and partly by your new manager, GPT MBA 123. Employee anxiety is up because AI bosses might be coming, or let me correct that, are here. Some folks say that's great. Finally, a boss who doesn't forget your name or take credit for your work. Others say that's terrifying. Nobody wants to be told that they're not meeting their OKRs by some LinkedIn plugin with trust issues. So we're going to throw it in the ring today on the Pulse Wave. The question is, would you want an AI boss? Let's get into it. Tommy Weinert, he's the co-founder of Mount Indy, and he is here to defend humanity. A man who's given more performance reviews than a Pentagon red team. He believes that management is still a human act, and robots cannot feel disappointment.
That's right.
Do you know who else we got? Come on. Rob Murtha, founder of Adjective, Army veteran. He's repping Team Machine. If fairness, precision, and Total Recall had a baby, it would be his hiring manager.
Great movie.
Yes, it was.
What's up, everybody?
What's up? Good to see you guys.
So everybody's favorite subject, AI. We're the first podcast to cover artificial intelligence this month.
Today.
As usual, I'm going to share my screen here.
Can we comment on how nice Tom looks?
Yes.
I know it's a shock.
He's going to a women in defense meeting, so he's got to look really good.
Yep.
I love it.
Class it up a little bit.
He's got some McGinnis vibes, man. I'm gonna name drop for a second, doesn't he? Where it's just like ironically dressed up, but like underneath the cashmere sweater, there's tattoos and stories.
Yep, exactly. I heard a saying the other day that I loved. Underneath a poor suit is a rich heart. I thought that was really good.
That is sweet. It's endearing.
I like it. So employee anxiety grows as 2025 report shows AI bosses could be the future. So, well, we're not going to read this whole article, but we're going to look at this. What that article says is that 82% of companies are expanding AI use, as we could probably all assume. Only 30% of employees are comfortable with AI acting as their boss. Trust in AI grows with exposure from 36 to 95% of those who work with it regularly. 3/4 of employees like AI as a coworker, but most reject it for decisions about pay, hiring, or compliance, maybe because it's not being done yet and they haven't seen it in action. But over half of companies expect AI ROI within a year, despite findings that 95% of them fail to show measurable returns. Maybe they're doing it wrong. AI is best viewed as an assistant, not a manager. So, would you confess your mistakes to an AI manager, Rob?
Oh shoot! Starting with me, you don't want to start with Tommy with the feel good take? No, I'm kidding. No, honestly, I think I'm kind of biased. I mean, beyond just me being interested in AI, I'm super biased for this particular question because I've seen it work out not in the situation where you're kind of confessing issues or kind of reporting things to an AI boss, but for veterans, they've been using AI interfaces for mental health just because of like the fear of like judgment for PTSD and just like the awkwardness with a lot of like, you know, like it's always this hilarious paradigm or sad paradigm, but I always find it ironic. I have like dark humor, but like you'll go to the VA and like, you know, if they want to do like some type of screening, they'll have you talk to some therapist that's like, you know, 22 years old, fresh out of college, asking you like structured questions. And it's like, this isn't a real thing. And it feels really awkward. I'd rather just talk to a bot. And so they started testing it. I think from what I've read at the VA that like there's some type of interface for veterans to kind of speak with and kind of provide interesting HIPAA approved feedback to artificial intelligence. And I think it's a great use case. And that same kind of foundation that makes them feel comfortable interacting with a bot, I wonder if that could translate to standard kind of like, you know, challenging work related things, right? Where you don't have to like socially engineer the bot. You can just tell it your perspective, not saying that your perspective's, you know, completely qualified or accurate or people are going to take action on it, but at least you don't have to when you're interfacing with a manager, everyone's on a different spectrum of respect and trust and opinion and stuff. You can just be honest with the interface, and then based on other workflows, that data that you provide to it can then be turned and compared and morphed, for the best benefit of the people and the company. Anyway, what do you think, Tommy?
Well, hold on. So, are
Okay.
you sort of saying like knowing or assuming or hoping that the AI isn't holding grudges or playing favorites, then employees might be more honest to the AI and be more willing to admit to mistakes or deadline misses or something.
Oh, 100%. And something I've joked about with other people, just in general, like way before AI even kind of rolled out, I think AI has just shined such like a strong light on it, or powerful light on it, was that like fake jobs have always existed, right? Like the TPS report stuff, like all the goofy stuff. And it's been sweet and cute. And that's why I'm like such a fan of the show Severance. I honestly think it's like hilarious, like the routine. But, a lot of times like the whole like employee to manager interaction has been all about, can you just like socially engineer them to hold less standards with you or favor you in a way that's outside of like, what impact are you providing on the system we need to be running so that people are willing to pay the larger company to solve problems continuously. And so the entire game isn't about like, hey, look at this awesome interaction I had that like retained this deal, or kept people happy, or placed a person, or whatever. It's all like, can I relate to this person and talk about the Falcons? And, like it's just stuff that has nothing to do with the system that's trying to be fueled. And I'm not saying we need to live in this like totally kind of, 1 and 0 world, but it is nice when people might struggle socially to, feel like it's on an even playing field and not have to rely on social engineering as much to succeed and produce value for a company and industry.
Tom, what's your go back there?
It's interesting that you bring up social engineering. Like when I look back on my early career, without social engineering, I wouldn't have gone anywhere. Like honestly, like those skill
Same.
set that like you see, people have early in their career that they don't, you can't put them on paper, but it's the behaviors, the activities, the way that people kind of act, and those things that you see in people. That's how I kind of got ahead. I mean, on paper, even today, I'm probably never the right choice, but the ability to like interact with people and do some of that social engineering is critical for me. But it's interesting from the manager perspective, because I didn't think about this before, but the amount of liability that exists at manager level within organizations is pretty insane. I mean, if you really think about it, when talking about bias and letting people get ahead because of social engineering. But I don't think I'd be anywhere without being able to kind of BS a little bit. And the whole idea of AI managing just seems, I mean, honestly, it just seems gnarly. I hope it never
Yeah.
gets. Let me just tell you one thing really quick. Like, Uber is a really good, example. Like those guys are managed by AI, right? Like they're getting their tickets or whatever on their phone, figuring out like who to go pick up. They're being dispatched by AI. But I had a horrible experience with Uber this week, and if there was a phone number to call, there probably is, but I couldn't find it on my app and start yelling at somebody, I definitely would have done it. So it's interesting that like they've almost replaced that with AI in a sense. But I would never work for
Yeah, it's
an
awesome.
AI manager because I wouldn't be able to bullshit them.
That's awesome.
Man, that's it. It makes me think, how foolproof though is this AI manager, right? Like I'm a pretty good prompter. I can get AI to agree with anything I say. So it'd be interesting what those guardrails are like. Let's watch this video and I have another question.
So in my last video, we talked about the mass layoffs that are happening right now and the cause of it, which is AI. Then I came across this video.
Hey everyone, in my last video, I mentioned how last week I finally, after months and months of searching, got a job. But the catch is that my boss isn't AI. I'm not kidding. First of all, I reread my independent contractor paperwork, and there's actually a clause in there that says, by the way, you will report to an AI. I have some experience chatting with AI, like many of us do, like ChatGPT, whatever, over the years. And so I know what AI sounds like. This is definitely an AI that is my boss, like pinging me on Slack and an email. But it's also different from any AI that I've seen before. But it is very much AI.
So he's reporting to an AI boss, which to me is crazy because
These videos.
I felt thinking about hearing someone getting fired, getting let go by.
Dude, can you pause it really quick? She's fusing some hilarious trends with this, where she's doing like, it's a knowledge-based video, but she has like the foodie type stuff going on in the front, and it's going to lead to some ASMR. It's like every possible like influencer trope that you could keyword possibly. Dude, really quick, funny story, not to totally rabbit hole here, but it's related. That's freaking gnarly. And I think in our industry, there's like this level of like social cushion I think we're all lucky to have, where it's like not that ruthless, where it's like everyone's trying to squeeze margin everywhere, and it's like, oh yeah, it's kind of like we'll get on the contract and these rates are good enough to like give people this like quality life, it's like but like you hear stories like that and it's like it's ruthless out there. Second, hilarious around the social engineering stuff, Tommy and everyone, but like I was joking with a buddy who's in sales, and we were talking about cold emailing and cold outreach, and like how bad, because a lot of the emails from AI is just like awful. It's all like the contrast comparative stuff. It's like, you don't need someone to kind of just, clean the windows. You need someone to completely shine them. And it's always like the same kind of like flow. And I was like, dude, honestly, where you make your money with sales now is just like absolutely crazy shit. Like I was thinking, I've been doing a lot of cold outreach, like just recently, and I was talking to my buddy who's like in hardcore commercial construction sales, and I was like, dude, I just want to start like the conversation with someone talking about like some badass pastrami sandwich I'm eating, and it's like they know it's not AI. I'm like, this thing's killer, this shit's fire. Like I have all these, just go into all the details because everyone likes food, and then you get into the sale, like anything that makes it more organic and like relatable and like not AI. Virgil, I know you mentioned like misspellings in the past and stuff, but just the last thing you want to do is like depend on AI for sales outreach, because it just triggers everybody and everyone sees through it. It's like the most like offensive thing you can do. Anyway.
I love that. It's funny. It felt like my career has been accidentally built on just saying outrageous stuff during sales calls, but that just happens to be how I roll. But yeah, it's a good cue for people to understand they're dealing with something a little bit different or interesting. So obviously there's already AI bosses. Yes, Rob.
Dude, real quick, the only cold RFI response where I ever got a response and they said, we want a demo, that's like the grail, right? That's like what a lot of people like submit. People in our space, for listeners that aren't in GovCon, the acquisition cycle is very sequenced for the longest time. It's kind of changing now, but it's always like RFI is a box check so you can get access to a deal later on, or at least be on the short list of people that responded interesting things to the RFI, and you shape the contract with it. Anyway, one of the Grail things is that you actually get a call from the RFI, and then you could pitch them directly. One of the only responses I got from the IRS, oddly enough, via RFI, was me being overtired and burnt out from like doing a bunch of growth activities, RFI responses, BAAs, whatever. And I submitted this like ridiculous RFI response with like this low fidelity meme I found, and like a bunch of tech stuff about what they needed for like this data platform thing. But I just had this like totally like unrelated meme in in the response, and the dude hit me up and he was like, we'd love a demo. And I'm like, dude, no way. Like the one I didn't try on, I get a response. It was so ironic and funny.
Have you duplicated that effort?
I haven't, just because I mean, I don't know why. I should have. I think I've gotten like less silly and less chaotic. I think when you're like first starting out in like your executive career and you're just like taking shots and you want to be that character, I don't know. Maybe I need to find the magic again. I need to get more Disney and playful and like kid like, but
just sleep less.
Sleep less, exactly. No, yeah, exactly. Maybe I just have to be like way more overworked. But it was cool. It was like a fun experience.
That makes sense to me. So that guy who was an AI manager, I'm going to assume that he's remote. So when you think about a completely remote, a remote workforce who they're spread out over different areas, different time zones, they're in different sort of cultures, different parts of the country. Would an AI manager make more sense in that scenario where maybe one person might not necessarily be able to relate across all of them, Tom?
I mean, I whenever we talk about this stuff or like the data associated with, I always think about like, who are these companies? Like, are these just the major, huge consulting companies that have 50,000 employees, right? Versus like a small business that obviously it's not a small business, but that's the first thing that comes into mind. Like, a lot of this discussion is about people that are buried in massive companies. I wouldn't assume that like it's smaller businesses doing this. But like, look, we're joking around about this, but like from an AI management standpoint, if it's like check time cards, check utilization, check KPI, like all of that very clear, yes, no, was it done? Sure, why not? Like, I don't need to like talk to a human about, did I hit my sales numbers? Well, maybe not sales numbers, but my sales activities. But anytime it comes, to something that you need context, I think that's going to fail. Like, for example, in recruiting, you can have an entire recruiting team with their metrics, and one set of the team could be working on, junior level software engineers with no security clearance. They're going to be way more successful than if one person's working a full scope role. And you know what I mean? So if you have them on the same metrics and you're looking across the team, you're like, why isn't this recruiter doing as good as these recruiters? Well, there's a lot of context that's needed there. So, even though AI is pretty good at context, I think that, I just don't see that working. And back to your original question, like confessing to an AI, like absolutely not. I would much rather like confess to a human being who has empathy versus it going down in some database. Even though the person I'm confessing to in HR might put it into the HR database anyways, you just feel like, there's a little bit more trust there, I guess. So this whole idea has me sour, to be completely honest. It just, it's scary to think about what is coming. Of course, there's probably, great aspects to it, but, my whole job is putting the human back into work, like, and to think about it being taken out just terrifies me.
There was this episode of was it The Office, I think, where Michael Scott was out of the office and he put an iPad on top of like this remote Segway sort of thing. But it makes me think, you take one of those robots that they're building and install some AI into it, and then you feel like you're really divulging yourself to a human then. But Tommy, obviously I'm kidding, but Tommy, you make a good point. Like, and it goes back to social engineering too. So when you do have a conversation with your manager and you hope that it's in confidence, it's never going to be in confidence to any degree whatsoever if you're divulging it to AI. Ron, what's your take on? You already think that any scenario is well equipped for an AI manager. When you're talking about, man, I mean, a lot of the companies are remote or hybrid at this point.
I mean, it's weird, right? I don't I don't think like I'm a big fan of humans always being part of the equation, just doing more. Like being able to maximize output, being able to increase accuracy more than we've ever been able to. So an example of that would be like if you do have a distributed workforce, don't just have 150, and I honestly think it's a lot of the companies that use offshore engineers and stuff. But like, don't just have 150 engineers across the country reporting to this like hollow semantic interface. Have them report to a hollow semantic interface that was prepared by a human that is now able to manage 150 people. And instead of having to do all of the organization and collection and enrichment and annotation that they used to have to do person by person, now one person is empowered to manage 150 people kind of well. Like 1 to 150 is pretty insane. But still, let's say it's 1 to 30, where 10 was the max maybe 5 years ago. I think AI is going to allow us to do more with less. And there's so many problems to solve in our country across like personnel, HR, management, efficiency, OpEx. growth engineering. I mean, there's everything could be better, so much better. Like every second of the day, we can be applying to deals or cold DMing people or whatever. We don't do any of that stuff because of confidence, lack of context, having enough data, you know, having something that you could just take off the assembly line and stuff into a DM on LinkedIn that's like a slick sheet for something. Like there's endless work to do still. And that's why I think we're not getting a lot out of AI. We don't have to cut humans out of the equation. We just have to get more out of humans now and expect more from them.
Yeah, I think the struggle for me, like the market signals, right? Like, I guess 2018 when I started Mount Indy, people were so about company culture, right? Like we were all still back in the office. We were all, still working in the office, and companies were really doubling down on company culture. So were candidates. They were like, what does this environment look like? Where's the ping pong table? Like, oh, this place over here has, a chef come in or whatever. And that kind of all got thrown out the window when we went remote. And then the interesting thing, companies were looking at, how do we recreate company culture online? And then you started seeing all these meeting rooms where it's like, let's go hang out together in these virtual meeting rooms, where it's like, which was just awful. And to me, it's like, where does the company culture come in? Because then it's going to go full circle. Remote workforce is going to be like, I don't care about company culture. I want to work remote. And then if we transition to everyone working remote, AI managers, human elements out, then the cycle is going to start over, and it's going to say, okay, now how do we create company culture with all of this AI that we've implemented within the organization? Then all of a sudden you're going to be having, virtual coffees with your AI manager or something. Like, it's an interesting thing when you look at company culture and what people are looking for. I've always said at work, and this is maybe the case for AI management, like, I want to know where I stand. Like, I would rather work for a company where it's like, if you hit your goals, you're here. If you don't, you're gone, versus a company that says, we're trying to save the world, and then all of a sudden they lay off, 50% of their workforce. So it's an interesting topic. It's like, what do we care about more? Like culture, the empathetic side to work, or the data-driven, like, get shit done side? It's just like, I don't know how that struggle combines for a solution, if that makes any sense.
I have a radical take.
Let's hear your radical take.
So I think, and Virgil, you're going to have a better take. Both of you will have a better take on this than me. But I think culture is so much bigger than physical space.
Oh, yeah.
I think culture is like something that is like addictive and inspiring and empowering, and something you think about when you're not at your computer and when you're like running to the store doing errands. You're thinking about not just the deals, but the people that rely on you, and like your kind of clique, your team, your squad. Like, it's so much bigger than the ping pong tables and access to a cold brew tap and stuff. Like, I think, and you see that, right? Like I love some places that had ping pong tables I worked at, but not for like the environment. I liked just the people I worked with. I would stay after hours. We do Dungeons and Dragons. Like, I've never played before, but it was like so cool. Like, it was just so cool. Like, and because I wanted to spend time with the people, not get access to the cool liquor we had or whatever that was in the office.
Yeah.
And you see it now, like, and here's the radical take, right? The radical take is, there's been 2 countries that have had complete uprisings where the government was overthrown, and that's Madagascar and Nepal. And all of that was coordinated via Discord. All of that was distributed, remote, interacting with people you had no idea who you were, but it was like Gen Z people saying, like, this government's a joke, it's completely corrupt and doesn't work for anyone, we're not doing it anymore. Started with coordinating protests via Discord. Then the government, reacted and hurt people, and then they just overthrew them. And now they're running the governments on Discord. The entire government's being ran on Discord with super like lean kind of protocols and voting parameters and all these different things, right? So that's a really extreme radical version. But like, if they can overthrow a government and run a government via Discord chat, companies can find ways to inspire people and build cultures that hold them accountable to what's expected of them, and trust and love the people they work with, and love the business as an entity that represents all these people that they're, kind of working with to solve problems.
I totally agree. the thing I think we take for granted in our space is we're always doing cool shit. You know what I mean? Like we're working on cool projects. How does like, you know, I don't want to like throw any company under the bus, but how does like a company where like it's not mission driven and it's like button pushing and it's like not this grand idea of like, you know, we're working in national security, but like, hey, we're working on spreadsheet, whatever it is. Like, how do you create culture at a company that isn't tied to an incredible mission or important work, right? That's where I think about it too. But I agree with what you're saying.
I mean, do you think that fixing air conditioning units in residential homes is a great mission?
Yes.
Yeah. If you're in Tucson, Arizona.
Well, you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like, where does this, you know, amazing mission stop, right? Like, because there's plenty of really great AC companies. One specifically down here in the Southeast that has one of the coolest brands and cultures of any company that I know, and they've got a bunch of guys and gals that come in entry level and learn how to fix air conditioning units. But it's
Yeah.
incredible because they want to make these people's lives better who've never had a job past or anything at that point, you know, get to learn a skill, a trade. So I think there are a lot of ways. I love this discussion. There's a lot of ways to build that culture, regardless if you're sitting there, but it's to rally around something, right?
Yeah.
And if you're an organization and you have some specific pillars or core values that you're constantly, you know, repeating, but not only just repeating, but showing from leadership on down. And, you know, what I've noticed recently is that one of the best and greatest rallying points that a company can have is like honesty and doing the right thing. That's what you expect every single time somebody makes a decision and you do it yourself, the people around you do that, and the rest of the company sees that, and then they see how they're treated by possibly other companies or other people from other companies. That makes a huge difference, and that's a big thing to rally around. Listen, is it easier, I think, to develop a culture in person when people are seeing each other each day? Yeah, I would say that that's probably easier. But to say that it's not possible, you know, doing it from a remote standpoint, I certainly think that's possible. I'm going to get to this before we're done. It's interesting. So I thought that this conversation would get to where it's going, which is, you know, how many people honestly really want to report to a 100% AI manager? Like every day, day in and day out. Oh, honey, I got to go talk to my AI manager later. I'm really nervous. But I think what it really is like, Rob, you touched on it, and Tom, you touched on it too, right? Tommy's like, hey, if you're talking about, you know, checking time cards or, you know, or your stat or your metrics. And then Rob, you're like, you know, everybody's got to understand how to 10X themselves by using these tools. You know, I'll share this video here, and this is why I'm playing it, which is, I think at the end of the day, you know, what a lot of people are saying, what I'm saying is that definitely at Metronome, you know, because we have these capabilities and that we're building AI tools and they're working, that's a good thing for all of us. And if everybody buys in and use the tools and contributes to how we can get better doing that, then everybody elevates themselves and elevates the company. And this girl is sort of talking about it here.
Well, that's what we're trying to figure out. My name is Virga, and I'm the digital project manager. A study by Gartner predicts that by 2030, AI will be handling over 80% of project manager tasks. But which tasks will AI actually be handling? And do you think time for career change? The good news is the answer is no. But you will need to prepare for some significant enhancement, like upskilling in problem solving and critical thinking skills. Here's the real thing. You're going to need to figure out how to implement more AI practices in your process. Because it's not AI that you really need to worry about here. It's PMs who use AI that are the real threat.
And that is a fact. If you're not willing to grow and use the tools that are clearly present, then I think that's what people should worry about. And when it comes to being managed by AI, I would definitely want to be managed by a manager that's using AI for or there's tools, AI, whatever you want to call it, to do the mundane things, because I don't want to have to deal with that manager. But to Tommy's side, I also want to be able to relate and use the skills that I have. Like Tom, I mean, nowadays maybe a little different, but I was never very impressive on paper. But there's some things that just, naturally I was given. And if not given the opportunity to talk to people and relate with them, I too would not be sitting where I'm sitting. Curious some of your last takes before we go.
Who do you want to go first, Tommy? You want to jump in? I'll jump in. What are you thinking?
Yeah, I mean, just in general, that last video is right. I mean, in every single thing, we're going to be using these systems, and we should be using those systems. I mean, I'm in AI literally all day long, and people are going to get left behind, like you said, Virgil, if they're not willing to adapt and use the new tools. I mean, that's just life in general. But yeah, that's really all I have. The manager thing, to your point, I do think that there's a place for it in management from a very specific context. But yeah, that human element, I'd be dying for.
And before you go, Rob, interesting. So, like the two of you too, all day. I'm in one of 3 or 4 different AIs, and I have Grok in my car now. So it's interesting. There are things that I want to either talk into and ask it, or maybe type into and ask it, but I don't, because I don't want it in there.
Do you have the NSFW version of Grok running in your car?
Not in my car, no.
No, I was just, dude, I was laughing. My brain's so weird, man. I was just thinking of Tommy when he said that. When he got all close to the camera and he's like, "I'm in AI all day, dude. You need to clip that and like make it all like psychedelic, like Hunter S. Thompson or something, and just run that all the time, dude. That's freaking awesome." No, but dude, one of the things for me, and it's funny because like, what did the Gen A kids say? Pick me's, like people that want to be like, what do they used to call them? Brown noses and stuff, like people that want to be recognized. Well, there's like a reality to some of that where, Tommy, you mentioned earlier, like I wouldn't have been where I'm at if I wasn't, good at social engineering. Like I get it. Like I'm an empath. I understand what people are interested in. I can navigate conversations well with them. But I hit a point in my life where it's like I want to do things that are like tangibly valuable. Like I don't want to trick myself. I don't want to fool myself and not produce things that people like love and want and need. And so like I started to lean into this whole like, what's your output? What do you produce? What can you create for people? And how much is it worth? Is it worth as much as you charge? All that stuff. I love that mentality. A lot of the people in my kind of product circle, I think, like in a direct contributor role, complain to me sometimes, and they're in like high powered companies, like super sophisticated Silicon Valley, tier alpha companies. And they're like, someone just took credit for my work. Someone just, I just did this thing and it's kind of becoming everyone's thing. And that's BS. I like built this from scratch. I kind of shipped it myself. I came up with the idea. I pitched it to this like random local buyer, and they're, I brought them in. And everything's just so murky, and people that aren't executors or deliverers benefit from the murkiness. People that are like genuinely willing to sacrifice a lot of comfort and be pro contribution lose. So I think there's this beautiful attested future state that AI can start to like label and mark kind of what are you doing and what are you contributing, and help people grow and scale and do things that are very contribution centric, because social engineering at companies only lasts so long. There always ends up a time where it's like someone's needed for delivery or execution and they can't do it. They can't rise to the occasion. All of the smoke fades, right? And it's like now it's on them and they can't deliver. And then they feel like crap and get rug pulled, and then they get let go, right? Instead, just like you don't have to play games. Make it part of your journey to get better in all these categories. Use your social engineering to bring more deals in. Use your social engineering to like upskill people and inspire them and create this aura. Like less game playing internally that steals from the company and the people that, and when I say the company, in my opinion, it's everyone who's contributing and benefiting from it existing and pulling salaries from it. Like more honesty, more transparency, more authenticity. I think that's what AI unexpectedly is going to deliver in the future, because more data is going to be mapped and attested to specific individuals and their contributions.
I'm normally an optimist when it comes to technology. I just always feel pessimistic that people are going to game it and that the algorithm behind it is going to be twisted and that they can see what data I put in there and somebody's going to steal my project anyway. So I'm going to leave this week on a pessimistic note. AI managers, AI augmented managers, thanks for tuning in.